Today we're just going to have an awesome conversation about ExpressIX. It's one of our hidden gems inside of ReSource Pro and how it's really helped IMA transform their small commercial business. And so diving right into Stephanie, I just want to tell everyone a little bit about IMA and kind of how you guys thought about small business before ExpressIX.
Yeah, before ExpressIX, about 5-6 years ago, I think we really had small commercial handled well. And then we became very acquisitive and have just grown very rapidly. And so now the definition of small commercial can vary from a $2,500 account to a $25,000 account. And so we went from a very aligned stance on small commercial to really just everybody doing things differently. And so ExpressIX kind of came in and helped us with that.
Awesome. What was keeping your leadership team and your operations team up at night before ExpressIX?
Oh gosh, profitability, what to do when people would leave, the turnover on that book, bringing people in, training them, and just how do we take an account manager handling a really large book of business and have them scale the service back so that we maintain profitability on the small commercial. And we all think we do really good at that, but if you run the numbers, you might not be.
Right. And Suzanne, as you hear that, those challenges, how does that play into the ExpressIX, and what does that look like from your side of the house?
So on our side, we really look to help agencies that are struggling with the profitability piece, struggling with efficiency, structure, being able to properly handle those accounts, service them, give the customers the service that they really need, because they're often neglected accounts. And so with Express, we're able to guarantee a profit margin while taking the headache away from the agency of doing any of the management pieces, since we're managing the book from end to end.
Awesome. Stephanie, for you, how did we get into IX for y'all? What made IMA turn that switch on and say, this is something we're interested in looking at?
One of our partners that we acquired already had an Express book. And so I think previously everybody was like, we can't do that. It's not going to work. We're very uncomfortable. And then you see us acquire somebody, and we don't make them adopt any of our methods for the most part. And so we let them maintain that Express book. And all of a sudden, our offices are calling them saying, how are you doing this? How are you being profitable? How are you handling this? And then one thing leads to another, and now we have 4 or 5 offices on the Express model and quoting 3 more.
Awesome. As we talked through it, just you and I, and some of the proposal conversations, were you is this for real? Does this actually work? Does anything stick out to you guys?
Yeah, I would say I was probably very skeptical at first, and then we met Suzanne, and I'll remember that my boss and I were sitting there, and we left that conversation, and we were like, gosh, she's just so impressive, and we feel like we need to just get her in front of our teams, and that's how we really got the model sold to our business.
Absolutely. Awesome. And Suzanne, obviously you help implement and onboard, so just tell us what that looks like and how it's different from everything else we do at ReSource Pro.
So we're really looking at taking a hands-on approach and getting things moved to us in the most efficient manner, and then also making it as painless as possible. There is involvement from the clients, obviously. We have to get, IDs, we have to go through standard onboarding processes, but essentially once we get through the bulk of that, we take everything from end to end. We really handle our relationships directly with the client as well. Our onshore licensed account managers and their assistants are interactive with everyone, but we're really just looking to take the headache away. But we're doing all of the licensing work onshore, and then we put our money where our mouth is what I always tell people. We tell you should offshore the back office tasks and things that aren't licensed or requiring a license, and that's exactly what we do in Express. We utilize our offshore teams in the most efficient way possible. We have standardized processes and procedures because we have the benefit of all of our clients and the things we've seen over the years, and what works the best, what makes the most sense, and again, just streamlining. And we have constant evolving processes in order to gain that efficiency and make sure that everyone's profitable in the business.
Awesome. Suzanne, what's it like to work with IMA on kind of an ongoing basis? What does that look like?
I love working with IMA. I love that they make us an extension of their agency. I think all of the leaders do a really great job of that. They treat us as if we are part of the agency, and those are the most successful relationships. People who are open to learning from one another, giving each other feedback, really having that open, trusted partner way of talking with one another. And I think IMA has a fantastic view of the exact same thing. Like, we're absolutely partners in it together and trying to do the things for the betterment of the, and the insured and what they need, but also for each of our businesses. So,
And Stephanie, obviously we've had Express IX in place for a couple years now. So what does that journey look like, and like how do you guys look at small commercial today versus a couple years ago?
I think now we've figured out that there's a certain size of an account that we can get our producers out of the way, because they're always the problem. And if we can get them out of the way, then we can move them to the express model. And what's interesting is our producers went from this absolutely, we're uncomfortable, we do not like this, to now we have producers who will just email Suzanne's team and say, hey, I've got this new account, can you guys do this, this, and this? And then off they go, and they're on to the next account. And so that's been really fun to see the producers embrace it and say, okay, this allows me to focus over here.
Awesome. Suzanne, what does that range look like for y'all in terms of like, what's your sweet spot?
Usually we look at a book and we want to have at least like an average revenue per account of $1,000, an average, depending on what there is. It's really hard, as everyone knows, to handle small commercial, to be able to be profitable in those micro commercial accounts. We really encourage agencies to take a look at Service Center or consider if that's a policy you want to keep, because sometimes you touch them one time if you've already lost money. And so that's kind of a sweet spot as far as a starting point. All of our clients are kind of different. Like you said, small commercial can really be defined as a lot of different things at this point, and every client kind of does it different. Regions within clients do it differently. So we have accounts that are definitely, and many agencies considered middle market. IMA is actually an example of that. Some of their offices consider, a much higher threshold, but that starting point is probably an average revenue per account. So we can take accounts smaller than that, but just when you look at the overall book, that's kind of indicative of where the price will be on what it takes to service the book.
Awesome. Stephanie, if you can give any insight to like, how does this help profitability, the challenges that you guys were initially facing, what does that look like internally as you guys have conversations?
Yeah, I think in terms of profitability, it's nice because it's kind of on autopilot for us. We aren't paying the benefits, we aren't doing the training, we don't have to keep up with the staffing demands. We can grow that book, and I don't have to grow our team. So that's always really nice for us. The other thing is, when you start to look at the size of accounts, you can focus your teams on the bread and butter of your agency. And so we can keep ourselves focused where we want to be growing. And also just going through the process with Suzanne of looking through the book that you're considering moving, you're going to find accounts that you forgot you had. We had a $2.50 account. We do not need that. That's one where the producer was like, it's absolutely going to grow. It's going to get a capital infusion next year. And you're like, okay, probably not. But we lose sight of those. And so doing that book review with Suzanne's team is always really helpful to think, should this be a service center? Should this go here? Should we warm welcome them to a local agency that better suits their needs? So even just getting some of that cleaned up within the agency is really helpful to us.
Awesome. So I've had 3 years of experience on Express IX. Any feedback from your team that you can share, like just any, as they've worked with the Express IX team, what does that look like for them?
They love it. It's so simple for them. I mean, we honestly sometimes forget. Like, Michelle and I will make an update in Epic, and we will forget, we've got to make sure we tell the Express team that we're changing Epic, and so now this, and this will happen. Because it just, once you get it set up, it's on autopilot, and so we often forget. We set up, new business processes, how we're going to refer those accounts into the Express team. But outside of those touch points, it just rolls. We get a monthly report. It tells us what renewed, what didn't renew, what new business, what account rounding. Those accounts probably get more consistent touch points with Express than they were getting with our team. And so I think that even makes those clients feel more important.
Awesome. Suzanne, from just like an ongoing perspective, like what were you guys thinking? Like, how do you guys work and give books back and forth? Like, the accounts, I know you guys shift and shuffle things as needed. Like, if they outgrow the account or they're too small, like, how do you guys move back and forth between IMA?
So we try to make it as simple as possible. Essentially, when there's a leader of one of the offices that wants to move any accounts in, they just need to send us the list that we need to review for the list of accounts. We take a look at how many, we just analyze the capacity of the team. Usually if it's a few here and there, those are really simple to take. If it's going to be a pretty large list, if we have 50 to 100 accounts or something more than that, which happens sometimes, we might have to work with them on a timeline. But our offshore teams actually take care of making sure that everything is transferred in and everything is coded the way it needs to be in Epic. We have monthly touch points with our points of contact at the offices just to discuss anything else that's going on with the book. So if there's something that needs to be transferred back, we'll absolutely let them know. If something comes up and it's like, well, we think this might be a better fit, or we found out this is a VIP account, it's tied to something much larger. We do recommend you keep those accounts because you're going to want to have someone who is really dedicated to that piece versus having it shuffled around in a small commercial book.
Awesome. Stephanie, from like a lessons learned perspective, like what advice would you give anybody looking at ExpressIX as you guys have had that journey, been through that, and like what do you guys look at now?
My biggest piece of advice would be get the producer out of it. If you can get the producer to detach from their accounts and step back, I think that's the biggest key. Otherwise, you're going to have the producers meet with Suzanne's team, which will go fine. They'll love them. But otherwise, it's kind of messy, and you have to stay out of the way. You can't be. They have a really good process, so you can't be inserting yourself at the proposal, for example, and then expecting everything to go well. So you hand it off and then step back and stay out of the way.
Awesome. And then what would you tell them about getting your team on board? Obviously, change management is probably the hardest piece of a large organization, getting people from different offices to be on board with this idea of giving work away to someone else. That's obviously a hard thing to do.
Yeah, I think the biggest thing is let them meet the team. So, Suzanne and her team will come to you. You can go see the Lincoln office. And I think that's just the biggest thing. They need to feel like they're part of your business. I get in trouble all the time with our IT department because they will say, well, I can't tell if this person is an IMA employee or a ReSource Pro employee. And I'm like, but that's kind of the point. We want them to feel like it's just an extension of the IMA team. It does make it hard for them to be able to tell, should we have access to everything or not have access to everything? But I think that's key. Make it feel like part of your team.
Awesome. And Suzanne, based on your work with IMA and other clients, like what are the key things clients need to know about being successful with ExpressIX?
I think it's really about being open-minded and having an open relationship, being able to give each other feedback as far as that goes. We have a pretty big culture push always at the IX Center, which is you got to be honest and you got to have a continuous feedback loop, and that goes for everybody, whether you're giving that to your employees, you're giving that to your coworker, you're giving it to your boss. You can lead in the feedback area anywhere, and I think that applies also when you're working with your clients. You can be honest and open and work together on any problems that might arise. I don't feel like they happen too often, but when they do, usually you're able to come to a conclusion together. I know Stephanie and I have had some good conversations around that same thing. I think also it's what you were saying and I said before was treating us as an extension of your agency, not as if we're just a vendor. We want to be a part of what you guys have going on. It really helps engage the account managers. It helps everyone to understand what the business focus is, what's the strategy, and have buy-in to how they can help make IMA successful. So all of our employees know you are not just representing ReSource Pro. Like to these insureds, you are representing the client that you're working on. They are the face of IMA to that insured. And so they understand and they take that really seriously.
That's one thing we get a lot of positive feedback on is that it is IMA. We're a service center. If you put an account in a service center, it's not your agency. And so by using Express, it's still IMA answering the phone. It's an IMA email address. And so it feels like they're working with us instead of that carrier, which usually feels like a cold handoff from the client's perspective. And then a service center can't always do, the coastal property or the E&S placements, and so it gets a little disjointed. And I think that's where Express really stands out.
Awesome. Last question as we kind of wrap up. Would you do it again? I mean,
Yeah. Yeah, I think we're quoting 3 books right now. So we kind of let each office decide their path with small commercial. And we have 3 very interested right now. So yes.
Very cool. Well, thank you both for joining us. Just a great opportunity to spend time with these 2 amazing women. I get to work with them all the time, and they're just fantastic. And so would highly encourage you, come talk to Suzanne, come talk to me. We'd love to talk to you guys about ExpressIX. It's truly a hidden gem within ReSource Pro. And just thank you guys for being here. We appreciate your time.